Welcome to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Our mission is to bring you discussions on a wide array of topics in the coaching world to grow players on and off the court. You can connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and also reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Now, here's your host, Coach Mike Hernandez.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining us here for another episode. As always, wherever in the world you're listening to us from or whatever platform you're listening to us on, thank you guys so much for all of the support, all of the messages, all of the things that you've sent to me, all the things that you've sent to the show. I love hearing from you guys, love connecting with you guys, love hearing the stories and the things that are going on in your coaching world. It helps me tremendously as I formulate topics and I'm able to bring on guests and have conversations with them with things that are relevant to you and the things that you want to hear about in your coaching world. So I'm very excited to continue to hear from you and very excited to get into this story. I usually call these episodes like topics, but I feel like this one is kind of like a story. It's a journey because we're going to talk about with my guest his journey taking over a program and building it up from 0 wins, which is one of the toughest jobs there is in coaching, is to take a program that has no real background or real tradition or past and maybe build it up to a higher point than maybe it's ever seen. I'll let my guest elaborate on his particular journey at his school, but we're going to talk about that process of building up from 0 wins, get into what the state of the program was when my guest first received the job, using the limited resources at their disposal to still be competitive, and talk a little bit about offensively and defensively and being able to still run an effective offense and defense, even if you don't have all of the resources or all of the athletes necessarily. And of course, touch on some culture as well. So let's jump right into it right now with my guest, who is the girls basketball coach at Victory Christian High School out in Pell City in Alabama. Today, I'm very happy to be joined by Coach Jared Arnold. Again, Coach, real pleasure to have you on today. How are things going?
Going great, Coach. Thank you for having me. I was looking forward to this.
Awesome, Coach. Let's jump right into to your journey. So we'll start with your basketball journey and your coaching journey, and talk us through where the game of basketball has taken you, and ultimately what were the steps that led you taking over the Victory Christian program.
Well, Coach, again, thank you for having me, and I'm really looking forward to talking some hoops with you. My journey, I played basketball most of my life. I started at a young age and played all the way through high school. I wasn't the greatest player in the world. I think you probably say my best thing was just rebounding and defense and scoring some under the goal. But I always loved the game, and I loved to play the game. It was my favorite sport. And as far as coaching goes, I come from a family of educators. My dad was a high school principal and a teacher and a coach. My mother was a principal and a coach. And usually, as a matter of fact, most of the time, if our family gets together, I'm literally the only one sitting there that is not in education as far as teaching goes. And had I not become an attorney, that's most likely what I would have ended up doing. But I didn't go the teaching route, but I did end up getting into coaching, and it's just the way it worked out. Our school, Victory Christian in Pell City, it is a ministry type branch of the church. And my daughters were coming up, and I have 3 daughters. And I had kind of gotten involved just in the church league basketball with the youngsters, and I was kind of helping with that and just doing that, helping out here and there. And I got a phone call from the administration one day, just out of the blue. I was eating lunch, and they wanted me to come down to the school. And honestly, I thought it may have been a problem. One of the kids had gotten in trouble or something. I went down there, and then they asked me if I would be interested in taking over the middle school team. Mm-hmm. And I took the middle school team, and I coached the middle school team for 1 year, and enjoyed that. That was fun. And the next year, the varsity coach that was there, he resigned, and they asked me if I would consider taking the varsity team. And I did think about it for a few days because I knew that it was going to be much more time consuming, but I took it, and here I am going into year 6. So that's kind of how it all was started for me.
That's awesome. That's a so what was like the level, I guess the balance of kind of the excitement versus nerves when, you were being offered that varsity position. What was your percentage breakdown of how excited you were to jump into it versus like how nervous you were to jump right in?
I was excited but very nervous at the same time. But I didn't really feel a whole lot of pressure because the year before I had coached the middle school team. The varsity team did not win a game the year before I
Right.
started. So there really wasn't anywhere. I knew when I took it that there was nowhere to go but up. But I really thought, coming in there, I could make a difference and try to get the program, headed in the right direction because I knew, with my daughters coming up, I wanted it to be, in a better situation at that time, than what it was when we took it over, and we definitely made progress on that.
Yeah, awesome, fantastic, Coach. You mentioned in your day job that you're an attorney, and I think that's really fascinating because, of course, most people who coach, I mean, I'm in that category, and a lot of people who are listening, and a lot of guests that I've had on are in the category of being teachers or educators or somewhere in that profession. Like you mentioned, you have a lot in your background. You have a lot of teachers who you're connected with yourself, but with your job as an attorney, I'm really curious about the transferable skills that you can use from your day job that could be applied to coaching. I feel like with teaching, it's a pretty straightforward line from teaching to
Sure.
coaching. All the skills that you're using are really a big overlap. But for you in your day job, how are you kind of drawing upon that skill set and the tools that you use in that job to assist and help you as a coach?
Well, like you said, I totally agree with you. Teaching, coaching is teaching.
Hmm.
But I think with my job being an attorney, I think where it helps me is, as an attorney, all day long you deal with problems. I mean, that's literally what you do most of the day. And we at our office, we always say that every person that comes through the door, they're not coming through the door because they want to see our smiling faces. They're coming through the door because there's an issue, there's a problem, and they're paying us their hard-earned money to fix that problem or try to or do the best we can to assist them.
Right.
And I think a lot of that can carry over into coaching because, as you know, in coaching, you deal with a lot of problems with kids, like just with their problems. And that's one of the things that I always stress, to my team is, if you've got a problem, I will do my best to help you in any way I can because that's what I do for a living. And they know and that if there's anything they need help on, all they've got to do is let me know, and I will do my best to help in any way that I can. So I think with the problem solving is probably the biggest thing that helps in my career with coaching.
I like that a lot. That was kind of one of my thoughts in that. I was trying to, I guess, in a way, kind of predict what this answer might be because I think it's really interesting. And I thought like problem solving. I also thought like, dealing and being able to leverage, the like pressure type situations where, there might
Yes.
be, there's deadlines, there's people who obviously are having expectations, right, at your day job for certain results and certain things to happen. But you're also kind of in that unique situation where maybe there wasn't that same level of pressure at Victory Christian because of its background, but at the same time, as a coach, you are making right. You are making quick decisions. You are having to, leverage maybe sometimes when some players or maybe there's some issues and discrepancies that you have to kind of fix through and work through when people have disagreements. So in a way, that like quick decision making and being able to kind of work with people in a way where sometimes they might be a little stressed or they might be a little tense. Feel like you kind of apply that to both sides of your world, both as an attorney and as a coach.
Oh, no, no doubt, no doubt. There's definitely, especially dealing with girls. There's going to be drama.
Hmm.
It comes with the territory. But as a coach, you have to do the best you can to convince the team to leave the drama outside,
Right.
leave the drama outside the locker room, because, and we talk about that a lot too. Like, that when you're coming to basketball practice, you know, it's my chance. It's my chance to get away from work and forget about the problems of the day, but it's your chance as a player to forget about the problems going on at school. We don't have to worry about the bad grade, for an hour and a half, 2 hours. We can forget about the bad grade we made on the test, or the
Mm,
fight we had with our boyfriend, or the argument we had, with dad last night, or whatever. We've got 2 hours. We can leave all that outside and just play basketball and have a good time. And
yeah.
that's kind of the approach that we try to take at our school.
I love that. I think that's a real healthy approach to take. I had you leave off on your journey of getting the job at Victory Christian, because I think this is kind of a good natural point now to transition formally into the topic of building up from 0 wins. So let's talk about, set the stage, I suppose, for what the condition and the state of the program was upon your arrival. So talk to us about where the program was at when you first took over the job at Victory Christian, and what was your process, Coach, for identifying those immediate areas that were needed for improvement? What were those first, like, okay, we got to address this kind of right away sort of thing?
It was really, I'll be honest with you, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started, I had no idea how bad we were going to be until we got to that first game. Um, the kids that I had, they worked hard, and they did everything that we asked them to do. But the biggest problem that we had when we first started is the kids had no confidence in themselves at all.
Mm,
They did not even believe that they could even not only win, but even just go out there and be competitive. But it took some time for me to really see it. And I'll never forget, when I took over, we were dealing with COVID and all of that. And, you know, not only having to worry about coaching the team, but, wearing your masks and sanitizing. We had to spray the seats down, and, all that, all that crazy stuff that we had to do, just to have the season, that we all dealt with. But in addition to that, trying to figure out a way to, coach this team.
right.
And I'll never forget, our boys coach, at that time, who became, sort of a mentor towards me. I'll never forget, we were getting on the bus, and he called me over to the side. He said, "Coach," he said, "just want you to remember," he said, "if it gets bad tonight, this is your first game ever coaching, and just don't let it." He really kind of, I think he knew, because he'd been coaching for 40 something years. I think he knew what it was going to be. But in my mind, I'm thinking, and we were going to play a school called Asheville. They're up the road, and they're a 4A school. And his boys, I thought we could probably do like his boys, where they're a bigger school. I was thinking in my mind, okay, we can go up there, maybe keep it within, 10 points or so, and maybe make it a 10 or 15 point game. Coach, we did not get the ball across half court until the third quarter.
Oh,
At the end of the
wow.
first quarter, I cannot remember the final score, but the one thing that I do remember from that game, at the end of the first quarter, we were down 27-3.
Mm,
um, and it was a very humbling, experience. Um, but what we started doing, and I had all these grand ideas of offenses, and these things that in my mind, that, I'm going to put this stuff. We couldn't get the ball down the floor to get into anything.
right.
And, about, I would say, probably 4 or 5 games into the season, we sat down, me and the coaches that were helping me at that time, my assistants, and we looked at it, and we were averaging 40 turnovers a game and attempting 10 shots a game. So I just said, I
Yeah.
just said, well, you know what? If we're going to turn the ball over 40 times a game, we're going to try to get 40 shots up. We're going to fast break, push the ball. So I found some stuff on the low. I know you've probably heard of the Loyola Marymount break from
Mm-hmm.
that Paul Westhead ran years ago. I found some video on that. um, I installed the Loyola Marymount break, and that was pretty much our offense the rest of the year. And I just told everybody, push the ball and shoot it. And the crazy thing, coach, was when we started doing that, our turnovers dropped from about 40 a game to 30 a game because I was not giving them time to turn the ball over.
Yeah, yeah, right.
And this we didn't win, and we did not win any games that season. We had, the year before we didn't win a game. We actually technically got two forfeit wins because another team in our area, they shut down because of COVID. So we got two. We technically got two
Just take
wins that were not really wins, but I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I guess they count officially, but
sure.
we started scoring more points, and the kids enjoyed the style of play that we had. And but that first year, it was a very humbling experience. But that was a good group of kids that worked hard, and most of them ended up reaping the benefits as they got older. When we
Hmm.
started winning and having some success. So that was a good thing.
So with that first year, as you mentioned, being a real challenge and a real difficult one, one of the struggles that a lot of coaches will face is keeping their players engaged, keeping their spirits up, keeping them positive and fighting, and keep getting after it day after day, even if they aren't seeing the score reflect any sort of success for them in the scoreboard at least. So for you, what were some of the things that you were doing to try and keep their motivation up, to keep their spirits up? How did you still get their excitement up each and every day, even if the scoreboard wasn't, showing the result that maybe the team wanted?
We would set goals for each game and what we wanted to accomplish, even if and I never let on, even if I knew that we were going to get beat badly, that we were just going to get slaughtered. I never let, and I don't know if this is the right thing to do. This was just my approach from just the way I handled it. I never acted like I never showed it to the girls. I always just I approached it like, okay, we're going to accomplish, this is what we're trying to accomplish tonight. We want to get up 70 shots,
Hmm.
and then we want to get X amount of rebounds, get to the foul line X amount of times, and if we got close to that or accomplished that, I felt like that was we, even though we didn't win, we met our goal. And I think that's something that you have to do, is if you're coaching a team that just doesn't have a lot of talent and you're trying to build, you've got to set those small goals and reach that, and when they reach it, praise it, and just really
Yeah.
really positively enforce that with them, that they reach those goals, and remind them that if we keep working and we keep plugging, the wins, it may not come this year, but they're going to come eventually.
And it sounds like you had a great group that really bought into that, right? There's some, coaches or even players who like they'll be like, "Oh yeah, that sounds nice. That sounds like a great idea to celebrate this or to count this as a success," but maybe they don't really buy into it or they don't really believe it. But from what you're saying, like that, these girls actually really did believe in that when they did hit those goals and those metrics. They did celebrate it because it was success that they were seeing.
They did, and the ones, I had one senior on that team, and she had played before, and then but the ones that had played the previous year said, they all said that even though both years they didn't win any games, that they really enjoyed playing in the system that we had installed, and we tried to make it a fun way to play, even if the wins weren't where we wanted them to be.
You mentioned that on the offensive end. Were there things on the defensive end as well that you tried to do to kind of try to make it fun or enjoyable? Because I think that is a big component, is like the type of play style that you have is really essential to keeping players involved and engaged. And if they're playing a fun style of basketball, there's a lot more that you can do with them than if they're, bored or frustrated with what you're doing. I know you talked about the Loyola system on offense. Were there things defensively that you can do to also sort of make it engaging and fun for them?
Defensively, we really just we tried to pressure the ball as much as we could. The goal was to create absolute chaos, every
Yeah.
game and just try to just make the game as chaotic and really, for lack of a better word, as ugly as we could make it, because I knew that we were at that time, we were just not walking the ball up the court and calling out a quick hitter or a set. It just was not, it was not going to happen. We were not fundamentally sound enough to do that. So,
Hmm.
we tried to use, the pressure that we would run on defense to try to create some offense, get some steals, maybe get some quick buckets in transition. And that worked some. And as the year went along, we did improve as we were a much better team at the
Yeah.
end of the year than we were at the beginning. And that's something that sometimes as a coach, you don't see that, like, because you're there every day. But I can remember, like, my dad would come to the game, and, like, he came to most of the games, but he didn't come to all of them. But he would always say, you're not seeing it, but you're a lot better team right now than you were at the beginning. So, there was progress made, and that was something that was very, very encouraging for
Yeah.
us.
Sometimes it's hard to see it on the day to day, right? Sometimes it's hard to
Right.
zoom out and think where where
Mhm.
things were to where you are, because you're just kind of in it, and it's hard to take a step back and see it. But it is nice when you have people from the outside say it, because sometimes we don't even know if we're improving, right? Or we don't know if
Right.
things are getting better. It's like, oh, okay,
Sometimes we just feel like we're spinning our wheels, don't we?
right. So it's like, oh, okay, people do notice. One of
Mhm.
the things you talked about with me before we started recording and when we were first interacting was some of the resource challenges that you have, and you do face. I know you are at a very small school, and you mentioned that there are limited resources that you do have to work with. So when you take into account that you were taking over a team and you didn't win any games that first year, and you have limited resources as well, how did you still leverage the resources you did have and use them to start building that program up from 0 wins?
Um, you have to think outside the box a lot and just try to come up with things like, one of the biggest disadvantages that we have is
Mm,
we only have one gym to practice in. That makes it very difficult, especially when the season gets going. We usually have to practice some, off campus at, another facility, a church in town. There's several churches in town that the school rents gym space from for us to use. That's always a challenge. The weight room, it's that's actually a little bit better now. We've been able to use the weight room more. We used it more this past summer than we ever have. But another challenge is, we don't have a specific weight room
mm.
that is just for girls. And as you know, in the South, football is the be all end all.
Yep.
So, we have to kind of work around in the summertime, get it. We have to get in there, when the football team's not using it, because they have to, they're out there a lot in the summer working out. But one thing that we did, we would use a lot of, you know, tennis balls, drills with tennis balls, jump rope, things like that, to try to and use a lot of body weight to build strength, if you're not able to use a weight room. And that's something that I would recommend to anyone. If
Mm.
if you don't have access to the weight room, find you some things that you can do body weight wise. There's a ton of different types of exercises that you can do with tennis balls, jump rope, that kind of thing. The tennis balls, squeezing those tennis balls can really build up strength, in your arms and hands. Because, as you know, girls sometimes struggle passing and catching. Um,
Yeah.
I think that right there helped us a lot with that. And, the jump roping can help, build up, leg strength and some speed. And, there's things you can do if you don't have a weight room. There are some things you can do to try to circumvent some of that. And we were able to do that, some of those in the beginning, and, really up until this past year when we were really able to get in there and use the weight room more. And the school is supposed to they're in the process of trying to get us a weight room
Oh, that'd be good.
fixed. So, and I don't think it'll be long before that happens. So that will be good when we get that.
Yeah, they need it, like you said,
Yes.
especially we've got a school for football team. You're trying to leverage using a weight room. Oh boy, that's not
Yes.
easy. That's not easy. No, no, definitely. So. What was then, as I start to kind of think naturally about the progression of your journey, what sort of changed from year one to year two and then to year three? Because you start without getting any wins except for those couple forfeits, and what did you owe the change to, or excuse me, what do you owe it to the actual wins starting to come up as as the years went on? What happened in year two and year three that really started to get things moving in the right direction on the score column?
Well, we worked really hard, and we had a really good the that first year. I had a group of 10th graders that first year that were that was a really good group, and they really worked hard. And then the next year was their junior year. We went from the 0 wins on the floor to 10 wins the second year. Made a huge leap, and then the third year, we went 14 and 14, which was their senior year, and that was a great year, a very fun year to coach, and we probably should have won more than what we did. But when we went 14 and 14, we played. We played in the we have a county tournament here, and we won our first game ever in the history of the county tournament that year. That was a big thing for us, and you know we were able to get an area. We won our first area game that year for the first
Mm.
time, and then it just kind of continued on from there. But I really credit that 10th grade group. I had those 4 10th graders that became seniors, and that would have been in 2023. That group is the group that really they really laid the foundation and set the standard that everyone else is that follows now, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What you said that they they put in a lot of work. Are you talking about general like skill development that they worked on, individual work, teamwork? What do you
All
think?
of
What
it
was the type
skills
of work that they were putting in that they were getting these meaningful results out of?
that each one of those girls were they all had their limitations. So what we tried to do is we tried to find what they did really well and
Sure.
really emphasize that. So for example, I had one of them, she was not a great passer and she was not a great ball handler, but she had a good shot. So we worked on shooting and shooting and shooting with her, and she developed into a really good 3 point shooter. But
Mm,
she was instructed that if she caught the ball, shoot the ball every single
mm.
time. Don't pass it, don't dribble it, because we don't want to turn it over. But you shoot it or you rebound it and score it.
Yeah, yeah.
So we kind of took that approach with them, and then we had a couple of other ones that developed into to good. They all had a role, and they developed into their role to where they knew what their role was on the team, and they just went out there and played their role and did their job, and that's I think that's a big thing with it too. Is just find somebody a role and just get them to accept that role and just do that to the best of their ability, and you can make some things happen if you can get them to do that.
So were those like individual conversations you had with players about, hey, this is where we see that your role is, this is where we see that you're going to be most effective on your team? What was kind of that process of making sure that they understood and bought into the role that they're going to be on?
You talk to them and you tell them what they're you help them understand what their strengths and weaknesses are and what their strong suits are, and really push them in that direction to where the what they do well is what they focus on, and then just really drill that into them, and they start believing, hey, I can go out here and knock some shots down, and they start believing in themselves, and
Hmm.
that's kind of what happened, and we saw the scoring increase and the wins started coming, and it was a fun thing to watch.
So with that, what did you find as a coach that you are now able to maybe do as their skill set started to improve? Did you find that you were able to make some changes or refinements to things that you were running offensive, defensively? How did you kind of build kind of more of an offense and defense around their skill set as their skill set continued to improve?
Early on, we still really focused on pushing the ball a
Mm-hmm.
lot, and really those first few years, I'd say really the first 3 years, we would push the ball, and we really offensively it was just run the fast break, and we would put a couple of little quick hitters in just to try to get a shot up, but it was really just all about pushing the pace and just making the game as chaotic as we could. Now we still play fast now,
Mm-hmm.
but we will probably this upcoming year, we'll probably put more offense in than we ever have going into year six, because we're finally kind of to the point to where we can. But defensively, we try to mix it up and still put the pressure on the ball as much as we can. Now, depending year to year, sometimes we're more pressure versus other years, but the basic philosophy is kind of still the same, but we just kind of adjust it based off of the personnel that we have.
And so that must be, a fun challenge then for you as a coach, because now as you start to see, right, your players' kind of skill sets sort of evolve, and their roles maybe change, and their basketball ability kind of improve and flourish. As a coach now, you kind of have more options available to you, and you can kind of make some tweaks and adjustments, and you don't have to be limited to maybe just one thing. You can kind of pick and choose around your player's skill set and try and do that whole chess match of figuring out how to put an offense and defense that best uses all of those players' skill sets.
Oh, for sure, and it changes, and especially on a small scale, it can change so drastically from year to year. Like I'll give you a perfect example. We had a girl. She was an all state. She became an all state player for us, and she was a really good inside player. And she averaged, I think, her senior year, she averaged about 25 points and 14 rebounds a game.
Mm,
She was the offense. But the girls knew that we shoot the ball, she's going to rebound it. But after we lost her, after she graduated, we kind of had to do some different things,
yeah,
because we didn't have that rebounding presence. So we had to play, a little bit, adjust a little bit, and we'll have to adjust even differently a little bit more this year, because it's going to change some, and that's one of the things about a small school is you just kind of, year to year keep that basic, the basic philosophy there, but you may have to, this one year you may play faster than another year, for example. It's that kind of
right. I
thing.
guess I wanted to kind of talk about. I didn't have this question directly asked, but I'm curious now as I start to hear your answers about to get the pace of play the way that you wanted it to, and to really make sure that your players were good in the roles that they were in. What was your practice structure like? What were you doing in your practices to really kind of get your players kind of up to speed and working as a team and be able to execute to the best of their abilities? Even if you were, not running anything particularly complex, they still needed to be able to execute, the pressure defense and be able to get up and down the floor with a certain level of fluidity. So what was your kind of practice planning, and how has it kind of evolved through the years as the team itself has grown?
The girls will tell you our practices are pretty rough as far as like conditioning and running. I mean, we run a lot at practice, and we do a lot of especially during those first 3 or 4 years, a lot of full
Mm-hmm.
court drills and things like that. Um, that's the main thing about when you want to play. If you want to get your team to play fast, you've got to practice it at
Practice, yeah.
practice. You got to get them to push the ball. I mean, every opportunity that you've got to do something full court, push it and get, because you can't just stand and play in the half court at practice and never work on transition and and expect them to really push the pace. So that
Right.
was really what we focused on mostly at practice. Was everything was centered around keeping the tempo high and just running and playing as fast as we could to get those 70 shots that we wanted to get up. That was always our goal early on, was to try to get 70 shots up.
So did your practice plans include a lot of like skill work that they were doing? Were they competing against each other? Like, what was the nature of their practices as they were going up and down and doing this work full court?
We would usually try to do at the beginning. I'm trying to think. It seems like early during that time, we would we would focus on fundamental skills. We would do maybe like 30 minutes of stations and like just rotate, have a station for rebounding, have a station for ball handling, and just split everybody up into those stations and let them rotate through those stations for 30 minutes. And then we would really get into the full court,
Mm-hmm.
getting up and down um, the rest of practice. So usually, probably 30 minutes of stations, 30 minutes of full court transition. We would spend a lot of time shooting the ball. That's probably the biggest thing that I focused on during those early years, because we were just not a very good shooting team. We spent a lot of time shooting the ball.
Yeah,
And I'm glad, because we still did. I can't imagine how bad we would have shot it had we not practiced it as
I
much as we
practiced
did,
it.
because
Yeah.
we still didn't shoot it very well those early years. But the rebounding with our inside player was what really helped us. Because our rebounding was just really, really good. We were really good. We spent a lot of time working on rebounding. That was a big thing for us.
Yeah, I mean, trying to take away possessions or make sure that you secure possessions, right?
Right.
I think if you're a team that is a little bit, limited in skill set, or don't have, aren't having a lot of wins, like you got to try and take away from the opposing team's possessions as much as you can, or maybe steal an offensive rebound you can. And I think, to have a skill that you emphasize, something like rebound, which there is skill involved, but a lot of it is, effort. A lot of it is hard. A lot of it is like that willingness to go get the rebound. I think that's one of those things you could maybe really emphasize with a team to really focus on, that doesn't require as intricate of basketball skills as maybe some other things do.
Oh, you're right. I mean, rebounding is something that really you can really, in a limit, if you have a limited amount of time, I would recommend anyone, if you've got a limited amount of time to
Hmm.
really get ready for the season, and you've got to decide, what's the one thing I want to focus on to get ready. I would focus on rebounding, because that's the thing that you can do in the if you have a limited amount of time. You can really improve your rebounding quicker. From my experience, you can improve your team's rebounding in a limited amount of time quicker than you can. It's going to be hard to really improve shooting in just a few weeks. But rebounding is something that can be improved on quicker than other things, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. No, I'm 100% agree with that, Coach. I wanted to ask about, when did you start to really notice kind of that turnaround? When along this coaching journey, was year 2 or year 3, did you start to think to yourself, okay, we're really on to something here. We are starting to really build and starting to see some success. Was it something just scoreboard related when the wins happened? Was it something else? When did it start to really click to you that, okay, we're on the right track here?
I think the moment that I feel like we really turned the corner in our program was getting that first win in the county tournament, because we played a team called Ragland. They're a rival of ours, and we had never beaten them. And as a matter of fact, the first couple of years we played them, they beat us as bad as they wanted to beat us. They had two really good teams. My first year coaching, they went to the Sweet 16, won the area. The next year, they had a good team as well. And our girls really, every time we would go play them, they never really believed that they could beat them, because the games had just been so lopsided. And we played them in the regular season close. And then, we got to the county tournament, and it just so happened that it was their year to host. They were hosting the county tournament. So we beat them on their gym floor. And
Wow.
it was a pretty convincing win. Of course, we had to play them again 2 weeks later in the area tournament, which is for the playoffs, and that they beat us the next time. You know, if we had won that, we could have made the playoffs. But it was a really enjoyable win to get that, because I think after that, our kids felt like, hey, we can play with these girls. We can
Mhm.
play with them. And seeing that happen was a very rewarding thing to see.
And then it was almost like sometimes that you get that win, right? And like the switch comes on, and then it's like, okay, they needed to see one. It's almost like shooting, right? You see one go in, like, oh, I can shoot. See a win, okay, we
Yes.
can win. And then like I imagine their confidence in the way that they must have felt after knowing that this actually translated to a win on the scoreboard. I imagine their demeanor and outlook was probably much different after that than maybe it even was going in.
Oh, it was. It completely changed our program, and then it just kind of went from there. Where um, we there were other teams that we had never beaten before that
Hmm.
we've beaten. There's still one team left in the area that's really good that we haven't been able to get them yet. That's Appalachian.
Oh, yeah,
They're
they're on
they're
the
they're
list.
they're still and they've got everybody back from they went to the Sweet 16 last year, and they've got everybody back. They'll be good again this year. They're the one team we haven't been able to get, but we've been able to get everyone else. So
Mhm.
definitely made some progress, and I couldn't be more proud of them.
Something you touched on, Coach, which I thought was really cool, and I wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of expand on it a little bit, is you mentioned how you had that one of those initial groups, and they really set the foundation and really set the pace for the younger groups that followed. So, what went into getting that group, that one of those first groups that you got to really guide and mentor those younger groups? Was it a situation of kind of empowering them and allowing them to kind of take some leadership and be able to kind of show the other younger players kind of the way? What kind of went into building like student athlete leaders that could then, leave a legacy with the players that are going to be coming right after them?
I think there was a lot of that they just kind of took it upon themselves to just lead and show the rest of them the way, and it kind of just worked out, and I see my ninth grade class this year. I see a
Hmm.
lot of that 2023 class. I see a lot of that in this ninth grade class.
Do you?
This ninth grade class that I have, as of right now, they are bought in, locked in. They want to improve and get better, and I see a lot of that in there, and that that's encouraging to see as well. But I think you have to find a couple of players that'll just take it upon themselves to lead and show everybody the way.
Hmm.
And fortunately, we had that during that time.
Yeah. And it just means so much more, right? When you have players that are setting that example and saying the things that need to do. It's one thing if a coach says it, but man, if the players are doing it and saying it, then all those younger players like, oh man, like this isn't just the coach saying it. These older players who I look up to, they're saying it and they believe in it too. Like I'm definitely gonna be listening and doing the things that they're saying.
Oh, definitely. You've got to have some leadership from the players on the team. I mean, the coach, as a coach, you can say it, and they'll listen to you. But when you have leadership out there on the floor, with the girls, it just makes it even more better
Hmm.
than just you. Because I know sometimes they think I sound like a broken record, but getting them to buy in is awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I joke. My players joke that they can, probably make bingo cards for the things that I say all the time and stuff like
Yeah,
that, right? I'm like,
right.
my seniors have heard me for a long time, and then they've heard it all. So I'm like, all right, you can handle the conversations on some of this stuff then. So if you don't want me to
Yeah.
be saying all of this, then you're gonna be doing it. So no, that's
And
cool.
sometimes you can get another, like, if you have another coach, they can come in and tell them the same exact thing that you say, and it may go over better. Like sometimes I had one of the boys coaches one time. We were practicing, and I told him to go show him this drill, and he went out there and showed him this drill, and we we ran this drill, like it was a rebounding drill, and I had tried to get him to do it earlier in the season. I couldn't. He got them to do it, and they just, it was just, I think, just a breath of fresh air for them. Just somebody else showing them something. I think that helped too. Sometimes they get tired of listening to us,
Hmm.
especially when you get to January.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. Coach, how as you look at things now, talk about this most recent season. Where things stand right now with the program? How would you kind of describe the culture and the outlook of things? How was this past 24, 25 year? What is all of this previous work kind of been leading up to that, and what sort of success have you had this past year?
Well, we season before last, which would have been 2023-24, we had the best season we'd ever had in the best season we'd had in a long time. The player that I was telling you about that was so good, it was her senior year, and unfortunately, she tore her ACL with about two games left in the regular season. And had she not tore her ACL, I think we would have made the playoffs. We were we were really clicking and firing on all cylinders when she got hurt. But we lost her this past year, but it was kind of a transition year. We finished around 500, but we were just a different basketball team. We were a lot smaller. We didn't have hardly any size at all, and we're not going to have any size this year. So we had to change some things around. But I'm feeling like we're going to surprise some folks this year. I'm feeling good about. I really like this group that we have and where we are, and I think we could have a good season.
No, it's one of those situations, right, where like you can have all the plans in the world and you can be ready and you have your plan and your outlook for the season, and then boom, that like wrench gets thrown in there, right?
Oh, it
You get
can.
that injury, you get that thing happening, and now I feel like that's almost one of the biggest tests for a coach is what do you do now when this complete monkey wrench got thrown into you, and now you got to adjust to something that you weren't necessarily planning for. And I
It
imagine,
was it
I
was
know it would
so
for me, like how much
yeah.
that really tests you and really challenges you as a coach to really think of how to still
It
have
was so
somewhat of
heartbreaking,
a
Coach,
success
because
that you were
honestly,
hoping for before that,
well,
injury or that situation happens.
honestly, Coach, when she got hurt, it did. Just looking at it on tape, it didn't look that bad. Like you wouldn't have thought that it was as bad as it was. And her knee, she tore ACL, and but her knee was not. It did not swell like I was thinking maybe it was a sprain.
Yep.
But sure enough, she went to the doctor the next day, and it was about the worst news we could get, and
Mm,
it was heartbreaking for her because she was a very good softball player too, and she missed her senior year of
yeah.
softball. Um, so it was heartbreaking, but um, the group that we've got now, I love that group, and I think we can you know we can do some good things. I'm really looking forward to getting the season going whenever it's time.
To commiserate with you. Unfortunately, when you said that, I had a flashback to this past year. We were doing tryouts, and I had a girl, and luckily she's a senior this year. She was a junior last year, and literally on the first drill, on the first rep of a drill, on the first day of tryouts, she tore her ACL. And it
Oh
was
my
just one of those
gosh.
things where it was just like the whole outlook of the season just is like, whoop, like, and I was with you. I thought, oh, maybe it was a sprain, maybe it was this, maybe it was that, but the way it was described and the way that she said what happened, I was like immediately like, oh, I know what this is. I didn't want to say it to
Yeah.
her at the moment, but I was like, oh, I have a feeling, and it's just, yeah,
It's awful. It's
that's
just
tough.
it's tough. It is. And when you say, and I had another player, my one senior that graduated last year, she tore one of her ACLs her ninth grade year and tore the other leg her 11th grade year. So she actually tore two ACLs playing
Oh
one year.
man,
So I've dealt with a lot of that, and it's not fun, and it just breaks your heart for the kids.
that's tough. Coach, where do you see your program kind of going in the future? We're always in a state of improvement as a coach and as a program. So I know, and rightfully so. You got a very positive outlook as you kind of see the group coming up and you see, kind of where things are at with your program. But as you kind of project out to the future, what are kind of your goals that you see for the program going forward? And also, what do you kind of look for yourself as a coach to continue to grow in areas that you want to continue to kind of improve along with the program itself?
I really want to see us make the playoffs. We still have not been able to break through and get to the sub regional. That's still our goal, and it's a goal that we talk about that goal a lot, and that's what we want to do. And we were very close 2 years ago, closer than we've ever been. And we had the unfortunate injury, but that's still our goal, is to do that and break through. And as far as the future goes, we've got this group of freshmen. Um, I'm really happy with them. They've been a blessing, to our school, just with their attitude and their outlook and their work ethic. And we have a good group coming up below them that's going to be in the middle school program. And I think that the future is bright if we could just keep everyone plugging along.
Let me touch on that before we hit our concluding segment, Coach. What is the work that you've done with your youth program? Because I believe that you mentioned you're at a K-12 school. So, what sort of work have you done at the lower levels to kind of get them excited and ready for basketball and get them ready by the time they do reach high school and reach your program officially?
Well, every year we have an elementary camp. We didn't get to do it this year. We just did not have enough time to do it. But we've always had an elementary camp where we bring the girls in. We usually make it like K through 5, I believe, or K through 6, and we have our girls in our program. They kind of put it on and help them, just give them a good introduction to basketball, and hopefully you know make them kind of fall in love with the game. And we give them a t-shirt and just try to really make them feel welcome. And we encourage them to come out to the games to see us play. And I think that right there has helped a lot. Just trying to do things to keep those younger ones involved and make them kind of feel like they're a part of the program as well.
And I know from a little bit of experience, and I wonder if you've had the same way, where those little ones, when they come into games, man, they look at those older players as like celebrities. They're like
They
the coolest
do.
people in the world, right? And it's
And
like,
that's
I
and,
think
and
it's
that's and
fun
that's
for the
what you
players
want.
too.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, the
right.
players love that too. Yeah. And
Hmm.
the kids are like just they're excited to be there, and I think that it just builds that like it's such a fun memory that those kids get, and then there's just even that little bit of excitement by the time they do get to high school because then they can think back and remember what it was like watching when they were really little. Now they're in the program, and it's like this level of excitement just kind of builds on itself just by being able to involve them and have them out in games like that. That must be so much fun.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. It's a blast.
So I wanted to ask before we hit our concluding segment in particular, Coach, what advice would you give to a coach who may be stepping in this year to your situation? They're coming in to a program and it has 0 wins. If you were to talk to that coach right now, because he might even be listening or she might even be listening right now, what's something that you would tell them as maybe something that you wish you knew or something that you really want them to know? What would be something that you would absolutely want them to be aware of if somebody is listening right now who is stepping into that situation that you once were?
If I could give any advice on that, I would say, first of all, just be yourself, be authentic. Don't have your standards, and don't sacrifice anything for any shortcuts. Because if you do that, if you hold on to your standards, the kids will come around because they're going to see that you care. And if you can make them believe, you're going to be in good shape. And just you know if you're going to struggle early on, like I said, set those goals and just try to reach those goals, and really focus on the fundamentals, and just try to get, if you can just get that culture to where they'll buy in, you're going to see some good things happen. But just but be authentic and be yourself, and don't try to take any shortcuts. It may take you longer to get there, but the journey is fun, and you'll enjoy it.
Yeah. And I think definitely to piggyback off what you said, right? Like enjoy that journey, and really like it's something that we've talked about. Enjoy the struggles and enjoy that first group that you have, because there's going to be a lot of difficulties, right? A lot of stress maybe in that first year, but that group that sticks with you, that's that group that sets that foundation. And those are the ones that like you can look back on and say, this was the group that, believed in me and allowed me to lay this foundation in, and we
Yes,
were able
sir.
to build off of it. And I think of, even for me, when I took over, that first group that I have, there's such a special group to me because they allowed themselves to be coached. They believed in me, and any subsequent success that we have as a program can really all be traced back to that first group who believed and set that foundation. So I agree. Like enjoy that and enjoy them, because they're essential to the journey.
Yes, sir.
To wrap up, Coach, there's a couple of questions that I ask every guest. So I'm going to jump right into this first one here, which is, and you've shared a lot already, so I hope you have another one that you wouldn't mind sharing. But thinking back on your coaching career, what is a specific moment from your coaching career that you think by sharing our listeners would be able to learn from?
A specific moment. Ooh, that's a tough one. I would say, let's see, probably the moment when Haley, my really good player, tore her ACL. Um, that right there shows that you never know what's going to happen. And it's so important to just live in the moment and enjoy the moment when you have them, because at any time any time could be your last. So I tell all the players, play every game like it's your last one, because you don't ever know when your last game could be.
Mm. And it almost kind of goes into kind of other stuff that we talked about earlier about like enjoying, even as a coach, enjoy like all the moments that you have, because you just never know, right? There's all this potential uncertainty, and things are always going to change from a day-to-day basis, and even daily, like your things are always kind of coming up. And I think to kind of like speak to what it is that you said, right? This idea of like making sure that you are in the moment, you're enjoying the moment, you're enjoying the time you have with your players and the things you get to do with them, because I'm sure just as well as I do, right? This time goes by super fast, and all of a sudden these freshmen, next thing you know, they're graduating, and you're like, wait a minute, where'd all this time go? And
That's
and
right.
and you and you want to enjoy those moments with them.
It flies by so fast. And just don't I tell them, don't get frustrated. I mean, if you don't understand the offense, you'll get there. It's not it's not the end of the it takes time. You don't become a good basketball player overnight. It takes time. It takes a
Yeah,
lot of time and a lot of work. And
yeah,
just enjoy the process and enjoy the ride.
yeah. It's a fun ride. It's a quick ride too.
It
Even if it's
is.
4 years long, it's very
Yes,
quick. And I don't all the seniors say it, like, how am I a senior? How am I graduating already?
they
It's
do.
just
They
so
do.
funny. Uh, To wrap up, Coach, I love to give every guest what I like to call a 60-second soapbox. You can go over 60 seconds. I just like to put titles to things, but I love to use it as a platform for you to get out kind of a final idea, a closing thought, a closing message, something that you want to leave the listeners with. You can take it any direction that you want, basketball wise, coaching wise, or otherwise, because after all, it is your soapbox. So, Coach, I'm going to give you the floor again one last time to let you get on your soapbox and let you take it from here.
Well, again, I appreciate you having me on, Coach, and I've enjoyed it. And I would just say, um, you know, coaching is a blessing, and being able to work with kids and make a difference in their lives. I know there's going to be days when you think, maybe I'm not making a difference, but I promise you are. Keep plugging along, work hard, encourage your players, and just do the best you can with the hand that's dealt you. We're not all going to be able to coach LeBron James, so just keep it grounded, and just understand what you're working with, and just do the best you can with what you have. And if you get frustrated, if you have a bad game, if you have problems with parent mad about playing time. Just that kind of stuff just comes with the territory. And you just have to kind of just, you have to have thick skin. You have to have a good support system. Fortunately, I have that, with, my wife and family are very supportive of what we do, and try to, get them involved and let them feel like they're a part of it. And that can make a difference, with the support at home, because you have to have that. And at the end of the season, something else that I would recommend, as hard as it is, and I struggle with this more than anybody. Take a week or two and just don't think about basketball after it's over with, if you can. It's very hard for me to do, but try to, find you a book or something, and just, find a show on Netflix to watch for a couple of weeks, and just kind of let your mind, be free of it, because before you know, you'll be getting ready for summer workouts, and it'll be time to start it all back up again.
Well said. It's hard. It's hard to take a step back, right? It's hard to
Oh,
it's hard to take.
yeah.
I think that's why I also coach softball too, because then I'm like, okay, I can't think about basketball. I got to go
Oh,
do
well,
something
so
else right
you don't
now.
well,
So,
you don't get any break then.
uh,
You go straight in. There's no break for you with
yeah.
softball.
Well. Luckily for the softball part for me, I do JV, so I just get to focus on the.
Oh,
I get to do the X's and O's stuff. I don't have to do the program building
I
and all
got
that, so
you.
I get to do the fun stuff and just be there and kind of separate from basketball a little bit. And I even coach it at a completely different school, so I'm very removed. I'm like, whoop, you're not seeing me. And then before you know it, though, I always tell them,
Yeah.
don't worry, I'll be back soon enough. Don't worry,
And
you
hey,
got to
listen,
get over waking up.
if there's anyone out there that's an assistant coach, hey, there's nothing. Hey, sometimes being an assistant coach is the best gig around,
Oh yeah, you get
because you, you there's a lot less stress, a lot less stress versus being the head guy. And there's
yeah.
sometimes you think, hey, if you were just the assistant, it'd be a lot easier. So I know there's a lot of guys that want to be head coaches, but hey, there's nothing wrong with being an assistant.
Hey, to focus on just pretty much the X's and O's stuff,
That's
man, that's a
it.
lot of fun, man. To do that, it's the program leading and the program building, the paperwork. Whew, sometimes
Yes.
that gets a little tedious, but it's all part of the fun, all part of the territory. Coach, again, really appreciate you coming on and sharing a really great story about the work that you and the staff have done at Victory Christian. So cool to hear just how great your players are, and just how exciting it is that your players and their attitude, their buy-in, and even from that first group you have to now, just the excitement that I know is there. And I know that they've come so far from where you first took the program, and it looks like hopefully you're getting more resources and things like the weight room and all the other stuff that your girls deserve. So I'm really excited to follow along with your journey and see, if you can get those victories that maybe have eluded you against some of these programs, and get that future playoff appearance. It'll be really exciting to follow with. So again, Coach Arnold, really appreciate you coming on here and talking with us, and best of luck this upcoming season.
Well, I appreciate you having us, and we appreciate it, and hopefully we can stay in touch, and maybe we can have a good season. I hope you guys can have a good one too out there. Go get them.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for listening. This was another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. We will see you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Make sure to connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, or reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you next time.